Hello. I'm going to do a draw my life, kind of, except for I'm not going to draw because we'll save all of you from the insanity of that. There's been a few other people on YouTube I've seen that do the draw my lives, but they don't actually draw because, like me, it's going to take too long and it's too hard and I suck at drawing. Let's see. I'll start probably when we moved. So when I was little, we moved to a town called Laingsburg, worst town in the world. And that was about 4th grade. And everything was fine because it was still like elementary school. I was definitely the weird kid. Didn't have too many friends, but didn't really not have any friends. That makes sense. And then about 6th grade, middle school started, and I became the very, very weird kid, and pretty much lost half of the friends I did have in elementary school. Weird how that happens. And then it kind of progressively got worse from there. I wasn't really bullied, I guess, in middle school too much. It's definitely when the bullying started, for sure. There was only maybe a handful of times where there were incidences. I was actually beat up in a bathroom. That was the worst part of middle school. I was locked behind the stall door and punched and kicked by my friends at the time. That was really, truly the worst part of, I think, my entire childhood. Having my friends turn on me like that. And I actually wasn't even going to do anything about it because I was in middle school and I just didn't want anybody to get in trouble, and I don't know what I was thinking. But one of my good friends, she found me and asked me what was going on and actually took me to the office and demanded that they do something about it. To which all of the girls that did it got in trouble. And one of their mothers actually came over and said that the girl was in lots of trouble and this and that. And then turns out later on in life I ruined her daughter's life. Don't know how I did that, but whatever. I got beat up a lot. Not just like physically, but, verbally. I was like the weird kid. Nobody ever wanted to do anything with me. Everybody thought that, I don't know. I don't understand that. I actually thought I was being cool by being absolutely disrespectful and rude to teachers and adults, which in turn got me in more trouble just because I was trying to fit. I had a close-knit group of friends. I want to say there was four or five of them. And I don't really talk to any of them except for one who I babysit her children, so we have to talk. And then we went to high school, where with how everything was, I was still trying to be cool, and I didn't care about anything. And I didn't do any of my homework. I didn't listen. I did whatever I wanted. I was trying to make everybody think I was cool, so I'd like walk out of class. Sometimes I wouldn't even go to school. And actually my husband now, I met in 2006. I believe I was in middle school then. And we dated on and off. Well, dated as much as you can in middle school. And that was fun. And then high school came, and it was more on and off dating with my current husband. And I was just a horrible, horrible person in high school. I stabbed my friends in the back. One in particular, the boyfriend I had lived with me in my basement with my parents, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but we managed to do some awful, awful things to my best friend. We hung out all the time. We were together all the time. Lunch, it was just me and her. And then I repaid her by stabbing her in the back, and then pretty much gloating about it. I went around pretty much telling everybody, and it was awful, and it was really mean. I regret that a lot. And then I got pregnant. And I had cried pregnant in middle school because it was, I watched a lot of TV. I was a horrible person. So naturally when I actually was pregnant, nobody believed me at all. So that began a whole new bullying situation. And then I actually ended up losing that baby. Which was the worst feeling in my entire life. I would not ever wish that feeling on anybody. That was pretty rough, and when that happened, I broke. I immediately left the doctor's office with my boyfriend at the time, who was 10 years older than me, and I was only 16. And I went and I pretty much just started drinking. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't want anybody to touch me. I didn't want anybody to talk to me. And probably after about 2 hours, it set in and I couldn't do it. And my mother ended up taking me up to the hospital to get a procedure, basically to get the baby out. And that was even worse because when I woke up from the procedure, I was confused and upset. So much so that when I woke up, I was hyperventilating so bad that I actually had to have oxygen. And for the next week, my ribs and my lungs hurt. And I even actually tried to go to school after everything, and I ended up going home halfway through the day because I just couldn't. I couldn't deal with people and the looks and the questions, and I couldn't do it. I ended up leaving high school. I just completely dropped out as soon as I turned 17. I moved out of my mother's house and moved in with the boyfriend that was 10 years older than me, which was probably a huge mistake. I don't regret it because I have my oldest son, because we ended up getting pregnant And I ended up going to jail at 8 weeks pregnant because he had his mother call the police and said that I had hit him and some other things. So I got arrested for domestic violence on a man who was 10 years older than me when I had done nothing. So that was a poisonous, toxic relationship. After getting out of jail, I moved back in with my parents and started talking to my husband now, again. And we saw each other a few times. Didn't really do much with that. I had my son. His name is Grayson. He's 6. And then when he was about, I want to say 4 months old, my husband and I started dating again. My husband was with me from the time my son was about 4 months old until about a year and a half. And then we broke up because we were both very immature and could not handle being together. And then my son's father came back into the picture for less than 6 months. And as soon as he left, his cousin actually started messaging me. And I had known them for 6 years. So started talking to him. And I didn't think anything of it. And then him and I started dating. And that was a very large mistake. That was the worst relationship I've ever been in. And I mean, the first year was great. Right around a year after we started dating is when I found out that he actually was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and he became very abusive to me and my children, or my child at the time. There was actually a point where he slammed me against the wall by my throat while I was pregnant with our child, while my oldest was outside playing. And we lived in an apartment complex, and the neighbor kids actually saw him and went and got their parents, who then came and talked to me. And I said I didn't want to call the police or anything because I didn't want him to get in trouble. And that was a mistake, because I was afraid that he would hate me and that his parents would hate me. And I wish, looking back, that I would have known what I do now, because I would have left. I would have had him arrested and I would have left. And he tried to push me out of the moving vehicle while I was pregnant, and my 3-year-old was in the back seat. And then he called the cops on me because I hit him trying to keep myself in the car. That was too much for me. I left him, and then after I want to say at least 2 to 3 months. I mean, yeah, I think it was 2 to 3 months. I let him come back because I didn't want him to miss the birth of his child. It was his first child, and it was his first son. So I let him come back, to which he almost missed the birth of his son, because his addictions got the best of him, and he constantly left me to go get high on meth and make meth with his friend at the time. So we went into labor with my son, and his family didn't come to the hospital with us. It was just me, my mother, and him. That was it. His family did not come. They said they didn't have the gas, but that they ended up coming like the next day. They just didn't want to come at all, which upset him a lot. So the next day he left to go get high again while I was in the hospital recovering from having his child. And he lost $80 out of the pay he had just gotten that day. And we went home, and it didn't change at all. He was very obedient when he was home. That's the only word I can think of, because when I said, hey, can you do something? He jumped. He was always high and always full of energy, so he constantly was moving. So to prevent me from knowing, even though I already knew, he would clean the house and he would go outside with the kids, and he was just constantly going. And that's why I didn't notice it the first year, because I thought that that was just him, and I thought he was being nice. And it turns out it was just to hide the fact that he was going crazy inside, because when he would try to sit still, he would itch. And it would literally look like he was having a stroke. One side of his face would start drooping, and he'd start drooling, which I figured out. So I was able to tell when he was sober and when he wasn't. He actually, after we had our son, Rannon, who's 2 now, he stole my pain pills from my C-section. And so I had to get them refilled, and he took those ones as well. So I had a C-section, and I did it without pain medicine. I did the whole recovery outside of the hospital with no pain medication. I didn't even have Motrin, because he took those like they were freaking candy. And then one day he got mad, and he was yelling at me, and he pulled my just a few weeks old son off of a pillow, and his head bounced off the couch, and I lost it. I couldn't do it anymore. I called the cops. I mean, he has smashed my phone. He got the upstairs neighbor guy to start harassing me because he actually owed him money for drugs. So much so that I ended up having to move apartments because my complex wouldn't move the problem, because he started sexually harassing me as well. It was insane. I don't know. I mean, you hear the stories where the girl just, she can't leave, she can't do it, and I feel for him. It is hard, and it sucks, because especially if there's kids involved, they don't understand what's going on, and you have to protect them. Like, you can't let that happen when you have kids, and you shouldn't let it happen if you don't have kids. And I know how hard it is, because I did it. It took 2 years, but I did it. And if it wasn't for my husband now, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But I left him, and I got Child Protective Services involved, and I got the police involved, to which our CPS case was closed on non-compliance on him, because he failed every drug test, and he didn't complete his classes. I didn't have to do anything, because I'm a pretty okay parent, I guess. I mean, nobody's really a great parent. And then my husband came back to the U.S. from Germany, where he was serving in the military as a combat medic. And I have been with him since. And even the only thing that kept me from going back again, though, was my husband. he started FaceTiming me multiple times a day, even with the giant time difference. He would stay up until like 1, 2 a.m. his time, and then get up and go to work extremely early. I don't know how he did it. And then we've known each other for a long time. I've known him since 2006, and it's 2017. We've dated on and off since then. And when he came back, we kind of just tried to figure things out and where we were going to be and how it was going to be. We ended up moving from due to harassment from our landlord at our previous apartment complex. We actually love this place a lot more. And we had a daughter. She is now 4 months old. And she's absolutely perfect. I ended up having heart surgery, which was absolutely terrifying. And we ended up getting married on December 1st of 2016. And none of our family was there, because our whole intent was just our parents could be there, and then we'd do it later on. But I have severe anxiety and depression, and I basically yelled my vows at him, and I actually did yell at him in the middle of my vows because he was making faces at me and I was going to cry, and I ended up yelling at him, not like in a mean way, but I was trying to keep it together, and he knows I have a lot of issues, and he just thought it was really funny at the time. And he still does. And now we are just kind of living our lives. I don't really have any friends at all anymore. I don't really leave the house due to my anxiety. I can't. It's just too much for me. When I do go, I generally just go to the store and I come straight home. I don't go do anything. And when I do, my husband has to be with me. It's weird how things worked out. I definitely think that my anxiety is a result of being bullied in school. Constantly being told I wasn't good enough and that I wasn't pretty and that I was weird and just this and that. So now I have a fear of looking stupid, which is why I made this entire video, which probably made no sense at all because I bounce around a lot. And I know that. But that is my story. And there's probably a lot that I'm missing because I am so scatterbrained. So yeah. And I highly doubt people are going to actually watch this. But if you do and you have questions or you want more details or something didn't make sense, you can comment and I will try my best to respond with a little bit more detail, I guess. So please like my video and subscribe and share, or don't. Yeah, so bye.